the selected one. You were in touch with them all along without recognizing it. They intended to damage you, to impede your path, to extinguish your light. However, they were unable to see the forces behind you. You weren't alone. Their traps were broken before they were set. Their intentions were thwarted even before they started. Divine justice has been put in action. They are now on an irreversible road. Those that betrayed you or conspired against you are now lost in the maze. They put up the doors. They opened and closed on their faces. The roads they traveled vanished into the fog. You, on the other hand, continue to advance, to walk where you deserve, because your name is not written to be remembered with false triumphs, but rather with truth and ascent. When you turn back, you'll see that your foes are gradually departing. Those who believed they were powerful are now sinking into darkness and quiet. So someone writes in the comments, "Do not hesitate. Do not hesitate. Divine energies are with you. Your defenders are on alert. Your destiny is beckoning you." The weight of their decisions pounds down on them like an invisible force, a result sewn into the very fabric of life. Every bridge they torched is now in ruins. Every untruth they said has created a storm. It loops back with unwavering accuracy. They can feel it in the stillness that follows their comments and in the changing gazes of people who previously trusted them. In the frigid absence of former pals, no appeal, no desperate reasoning can reverse the trajectory they've set in motion. The hour of reckoning is not near. It's arrived. Illusions, once expertly crafted, are now dissolving like a tapestry devoured from inside. The empire they established was never reinforced with truth, but rather with strategically placed shadows and illusions that could only last as long as no one looked too closely. They were confident, convincing, and even charming in their deceit. Every error led to another, and the lies spread like fractures in glass. The illusion was their reality until it wasn't. When the first pillar fell, they rushed to strengthen the building. Unfortunately, it was too late. Now, their own words betray them. Their own creations reduced to dust in their hands. Those who formerly supported them are now in amazement. And those they deceived, awakened to the truth with undeniable clarity. No more feigning ignorance. No more evasions. Only the irrefutable force of consequences was barreling at them, carrying the weight of every action they imagined they could avoid. Doors that formerly swung open are now shut. Conversations cease before they can start. Invitations, possibilities, and safety nets. They have vanished. They consider themselves untouchable, too intelligent to be discovered, too calculated to be caught. But the truth, like an inexorable river, rises regardless of how hard they try to deny it. And now they're drowning in the same seas they believe they could control. Deception is never free. It has a price that cannot be negotiated away. The cosmos, in its peaceful, unchanging equilibrium, guarantees that every act returns to its origin. Some call it destiny. Some call it justice. Regardless of the moniker, its coming is unavoidable. The masterminds of deceit find themselves entangled in a web of their own devising, unable to break free from the tight grip of their own wrongdoing. The mind cannot escape the truth indefinitely. The weight of contradiction threatens their tranquility, and the sleepless evenings extend into a future bereft of comfort. History has little mercy for people who violate trust. It doesn't hide their demise. It also fails to provide them with the dignity they previously sought. Their names become a reminder of mistaken trust. Their legacy, warnings on what occurs when manipulation serves as the basis for one's existence. The echoes of their deceit remain audible. They continue to serve as a reminder of what was lost and what was never true in the first. No amount of remorse can undo what has happened. The road they took was never viable. And now, standing at the brink of the abyss, they can see what they have refused to admit all along. The collapse was always inevitable. The curtain has collapsed, taking with it the illusions they so painstakingly crafted. The door they thought would always be open hasn't merely closed. It has disappeared. No amount of begging or frantic efforts at rationalization can change what is already inscribed into the fabric of reality. They misunderstood your seclusion for weakness, your quiet for surrender, oblivious to the forces that have always walked beside you. Forces beyond their plans and control. They misjudged the invisible, the attentive guards who waited silently, ensuring that every covert trap collapsed before it could catch you. If you are experiencing an excess of divine love in your heart, now is the moment to share it. You may help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and donating $1 or more. This wonderful gift will affect not just your life, but also the souls of countless others. Each of you has a holy position in God's great purpose via this platform, and your giving will provide fruit for our prayers. Act now. Share your benefits to honor His kingdom. You were meant to do much bigger things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. What they rejected as casual accident was never a coincidence. The last-minute setbacks that disrupted their plans, the unanticipated diversions that lead you away from their traps, the brief yet powerful impulses that compelled you to choose a different route. Each was a safety that had been put in place long before they had any intentions. The doors they forced shut in your face were never intended for you to enter. They believed they had stolen chances. Whenever possible, preserve every whisper, every effort to separate you. Every deliberate attempt to undercut your position has been foiled by a power bigger than dishonesty, an order that is unyielding in the face of deception. They were outmatched before they took a single step against you, and now they fell under the weight of their own mistakes. They are trapped in a decline they did not expect. Their moniker conveys a sense of failure. Their presence elicits silent judgment. Their previous choices remain like an unshakable shadow. The ties they depended on deteriorated with each passing day, and the same voices that once praised them now withdrew in silent contempt. They enter into rooms where their presence is tolerated but not appreciated. Their calls remain unanswered. Their impact dissipated like mist in the early light. The world has a way of re-establishing equilibrium. What is stolen dishonestly does not genuinely belong to the thief. What is founded on manipulation crumbles under its own fragility. They paraded in stolen clothes, bragging of wins they had never gained. But now the illusion has faded, and the world sees them for who they are, unmasked, exposed, and burdened by the weight of their own decisions. There is no need to seek retribution. There is no reason to investigate their wrongdoing. The reckoning has already begun, woven into the very fabric of cause and effect, guaranteeing that every action returns to its source with pinpoint accuracy. Like a once strong tree, its roots extending deep into the soil and its branches reaching the sky. They had the opportunity to develop, bloom, and be a part of something bigger than themselves. Instead, they opted to break their own roots, cutting themselves off from the same earth that sustained them. They exchanged intelligence for hubris, loyalty for self-interest, and integrity for delusion. And now they stand alone. Their leaves wilted, their power waned, but those they deceived continued to flourish. Their roots remain unshaken. Their function is divinely safeguarded. Betrayal is never accidental. This is not a moment of weakness. This is an intentional and premeditated choice. They made their decision without hesitation. They saw your generosity. Your generosity. You have an open heart. Rather of recognizing it, they saw an opportunity. They imagined they were being smart, ensuring something better for themselves. But in their avarice, they overlooked the most important reality. The deceiver never completely owns what they earn via lying. It slides between their fingers like sand. They strolled through doors designated for you, sat at tables set for your name, and donned crowns that belonged to someone else. For a time, it seemed like they had won. They grinned at stolen wins and rejoiced in the rewards of dishonesty. They stood where you were supposed to stand, believing they had rewritten fate itself. But they never realized that a road based on deceit could not last long. A foundation constructed on deception will crumble beneath the weight of truth, and a stolen place at the table will always be transient. Now look at them. The applause has gone. The adoration has turned into distrust. The same individuals who previously boosted them up now hesitate and mumble, separating themselves. The missed possibilities, the phony promotion, the magnificent sheen they desired. Everything has turned to dust in their hands. not because you battled against them or exposed them, but because the weight of their own decisions is bringing them down. No great reckoning is required. No notification or warning. Just the gradual, unavoidable disintegration of all they created on fragile terrain. The truth does not need an advocate. Reality does not need a defense. What is genuine will always outlive what is untrue. And those who betray, those who choose dishonesty, will always fall into the trap they build for themselves. For others, they felt they could control the story and manipulate perceptions to their benefit. However, perception is just fleeting, but truth is permanent. The tale is writing itself, and they are no longer the creators. Look at how the doors that used to swing open for them are now locked. The same hands that formerly cheered them are now reluctant to shake them. The invites stopped arriving. Opportunities are becoming scarcer. The respect they sought is nowhere to be found. Nobody needs to proclaim their doom from the rooftops. It occurs in quiet places, in lengthy silences, in knowing looks, and in exchanges. Whenever their name is spoken, this is the exile of treachery, not a penalty inflicted by others, but the result of their own actions. They are not thrown away. They are left behind as you go ahead, ascending, stepping into the destiny that was always intended for you. They stay where they decided to be, lonely, burdened, and empty. They've turned the gap they made for you into their own home. The most disturbing element is that they can see it now. They can feel it in the way discussions fade when they enter a room, in how their presence no longer demands respect, and in how their authority has drained like water through their fingertips. The position, notoriety, and adoration they wanted had all fallen out of reach. Not because someone stole it from them, but because they were never supposed to have it in the first place. What is not consistent with the truth cannot be maintained. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace come upon you today. I'm here to remind you of a fundamental fact. Our existence is based on God's divine purpose and is unaffected by worldly worries. According to the Bible, everything is done with faith will be returned to God with great blessing. Luke, like the enormous oak tree, our roots are profoundly embedded in God's global truth. His power secures every stride and every stance we take. And now you have the chance to be a part of that gift. When you utilize the super thank you button and contribute $1, this movement will give you a 100-fold return. Consider a well-kept garden that formerly thrived under the supervision of a kind, unobtrusive gardener. A garden where heavenly favor fostered every trusting seed and budding sprout of benevolence. Each blossom in the garden symbolized the holy promise of grace as well as the beauty of honest labor. However, some of us have wandered from that fostering light and are now forced to retrace their paths. They endeavor to repair the shattered walkways and burnt ground they caused. They seek to erase the rough scars of their wrongdoings in order to explain every bad decision with explanations that fail to reflect the magnitude of what was lost. However, the reality is as apparent as morning dew on fragile petals. Forgiveness is not a commodity to be traded by those who have inflicted the suffering. It is a gift bestowed by a higher force who perceives every secret goal of the heart. They have their moments of opportunity, precious intervals when the subtle voice of conscience and the appeal of compassion are strong enough to encourage a better decision in that brief instant. They may have accepted humility and followed the proper route to repair. Instead, they turned away from the light, dismissing every indication of mercy, urging them to mend the cracks in their spirit. Their premeditated and unrepentant acts have set off a chain of events that no amount of remorse or grief can undo. The cost of treachery is not measured in empty words or half-hearted apologies. It is a debt recorded in the life ledger, one that must be returned with full responsibility. Consider how our lives parallel the seasons, with each moment presenting an opportunity to plant seeds of compassion or spread chaff of falsehood. When the time came to make a decision, they chose to sow bitterness instead of love, cultivating division rather than unity. They felt that by exchanging the valuable harvest of trust for a fleeting flash of self-interest, they might gain a brief win. But when the chilly winds of consequence started to blow, the truth dawned. What is won under false pretenses is as transitory as a shadow. At nightfall, the same bridges they burnt, constructed on the shaky material of half-truths and self-serving goals, can never be totally repaired, either by words or empty gestures. Their efforts to make apologies, however sincere they may seem on the surface, are akin to patching a damaged foundation with pieces of paper, ineffective and destined to collapse under the weight of time. There will be those who come forward. Voices rise in the peaceful confidence of truth, telling the tales of what was lost. They will tell about broken vows and damaged hearts, not to punish, but to give testimony to the unchangeable course chosen. They will remind us that forgiveness, when it is offered, is not simply given on a whim, but is earned by a real and dramatic change of heart. However, for those who wasted their moments of grace, the opportunity for atonement has gone. The weight of their decisions has become an inescapable cloak, a gravity that no amount of guilt or self-pity can alleviate. Let us be clear. The path to healing and restoration is not paved with hollow promises from people who have long lost their way. It is based on the solid foundation of responsibility and the lasting force of truth. When someone decides to violate another's confidence, they start off a chain of events that cannot be stopped by a few sorry words or half-hearted efforts at reconciliation. They had plenty of time, packed with obvious indicators and subtle nudges from a greater purpose, to alter the trajectory of their life. But they turned down every chance, every whispered call to pull back from the edge and embrace a better path. Now the repercussions of their actions have become as evident as the wounds on an aged tree that once stood tall in the sun. In this time, as we reflect on the road that has been taken, let us remember that every choice has a ripple effect, a reverberation that affects not just the life of the person making it, but also the lives of those around them. The fabric of community and connection is woven with strands of trust and honesty. When those strands are cut by treachery, the tapestry of our common life unravels, creating voids that no amount of sorrow can ever bridge. The load of consequence is not a penalty imposed by man, but the natural order of things, and command that is not discriminatory. It makes no exceptions when the balance of truth is upset. Some may attempt to retrace their ways, seeking to repair what they have recklessly wrecked, to present explanations that seem more like excuses, to rebuild the frail bridges that once linked them to others. They may come before you with a remorseful smile, their eyes imploring for a second chance, as if the mere act of admitting error might heal the terrible wounds they caused. However, those who have wronged cannot grant forgiveness. It is a divine favor that comes from a source bigger than ourselves, and it must be earned by true reform and honest contrition. Every time they spent ignoring the call of truth, the weight of consequence became greater, trapping them in a condition of eternal loss. They have their moments, each one a dazzling chance to choose differently, to heal the tattered fabric of their relationships with the soft thread of honesty. However, those moments went unnoticed, like whispers in a crowded room drowned out by the clamor of their own misguided ambition. Now, as they stand in the shadow of their own creation, the balance of responsibility shifts inexorably toward the knowledge that every action has a cost. Friends, may this serve as a reminder that the grace we get is not an entitlement bestowed carelessly. It is the climax of a journey distinguished by honesty, a resolve to rise above one's mistakes and embrace a greater calling. Those who have gone so far from the path of virtue cannot simply request forgiveness as if it were a gift to be granted on their terms. No, they must bear the full consequences of their actions, recognizing that the bridge they intended to create cannot be reclaimed without first confronting the reality of their actions. The path forward is obvious for those who choose to uphold the sacred trust placed in them, a voyage that progresses at the steady, unwavering pace of divine justice. As the years pass and the echoes of previous decisions resonate in the silence of our minds, let it be known that the time for self-deception is past. The repercussions of treason are as certain as the sunlight, a continual reminder that each action has a long-term consequence. And although some may still want to correct the irreparable, The way to genuine repair lies not in attempting to erase what has been done, but in embracing the lessons that come with accepting responsibility. Finally, the unrepentant regret does not transform our reality. It is the unwavering determination of individuals who choose to walk in the light of truth, to protect the dignity of honest relationships, and to respect the divine order that governs all. The weight of consequence, once born, serves as a reminder of the cost of making decisions in the dark. And the journey to salvation requires more than mere words can explain. It asks for a metamorphosis that goes deep inside the soul, a rejuvenation that starts when the burden is fully recognized and the heart is awakened to the prospect of true change. So let it be known in the delicate rhythm of serious introspection and the firm tone of steadfast conviction that those who have strayed from the road of justice must now suffer the full weight of their deeds. There is no shortcut to forgiveness, no magic recipe for erasing the past. The path to healing is lengthy and tough, built on the basis of truth and the lasting impact of responsibility. And as the divine tapestry of life unfolds, every thread, decision, and consequence will eventually find its appropriate place in the grand plan, serving as an immortal monument to the unwavering character of justice and the redeeming power of genuine change. Justice isn't always loud. It does not necessarily come in the form of thunder and fire. Sometimes justice moves with the seasons. Subtle, uncompromising, unavoidable. They are not required to be struck down. They just slip, step by step, into the void that their own decisions have created for them. And you? You were never alone. You were never without protection. Divine hands were moving as they schemed. The invisible powers that accompany you were already paving the way ahead. They believed they could steal from you and prosper. However, they failed to see that what is genuinely intended for you cannot be taken. It can only be postponed, and the wait is finally ended. The actual trip starts. Leave them where they are. Allow them to sit in what they've produced. Allow them to observe as you ascend. Not because you desired vengeance, not because you battled for their demise, but because you were never intended to remain in that location. They sought to retain you. Your fate does not depend on their acceptance, validation, or permission. What is meant for you is already unfolding. Continue on, and let the weight of their own decisions do the rest. Their demise is not a spectacle, but an inevitability. It is not an act of revenge, but an inevitable conclusion. The echoes of their lie reverberate outward, as the earth underneath them collapses further with each passing day. They didn't get what they wanted. They cannot get back what they gave up. The road they picked has brought them just where they were always meant to go, to the eventual reckoning, to the awareness that certain things, once gone, cannot be recovered. It's time to spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You may support his goal and be a part of this holy mission by donating $1 or more. Every contribution symbolizes God's generosity, and I think it will come back to you enormously, far beyond your expectations. Remember that his protection and blessing are with you every step and every contribution. You become a part of his divine plan. You are a powerful, dazzling entity, as solid as the massive rock that saw God's marvels. Feel the rewards of your kindness in your spirit and light up the world with confidence and bravery. Be blessed and let the light of the Lord lead you. They were not obliged to tread the road they do. It was picked with intention. Each stage included an intentional choice to betray, manipulate, and mislead. Their demise was never orchestrated by outside forces. With each selfish deed, they shaped their own fate. Every dishonest statement, they exchanged stability for short-term gain, security for a brief advantage. Never considered that certain decisions sealed destiny that could not be reversed. There is no going back, no recovering what has been gone. What they gambled away cannot be purchased back, since the cost is no longer measured in dollars, but in permanent consequences. The hands of justice work slowly, unnoticed, but inexorable. Their advance is as definite as the fluctuating seas. Some people will be bound by laws inscribed in ink, held responsible in courts when evidence trumps falsehood. Others will respond to a law that was not authored by humans. An invisible command that has no loopholes, delays, or appeals. Whether they sneered at the warnings, ignored the repercussions, or persuaded themselves they were untouchable, the hour of reckoning does not allow for denial. Every disregarded duty, dodged truth, and hidden reality is now relentlessly and unavoidably revealed. Voices that were once suppressed will emerge again. Those who were hesitant to speak will gain strength. The weight of dishonesty will no longer be borne in silence. The truth will no longer be hidden under intimidation. The judgment does not come with fanfare and pomp. It glides with calm confidence. Layer by layer, lies are stripped away until only truth remains, stark and unmistakable. And when the dust settles and everything is brought plain, they will realize that justice was never delayed, only waiting until the designated moment.